source for young, talented engineers that we send on training all over Ericsson offices in the world. And one thing what I was very impressed, and I knew since my experience building Gurgion office for charging and mediation, I have seen that people don't want to work something that they don't feel ownership for. They don't want to work on corrections for the software that was written 15 years ago and so on. They want to be creative and do something when they go home. They can say, I'm building this.
Wow.
And that something is going to be used there. So I have discovered that people have to be proud, especially what I see that there is, everybody has a proud, but these young engineers in India, they wanted to be proud of what they're doing. So we said, no, we are not going to give them only work to maintain the old products. We are going to put the top new development there. And I was looking what's happening. So when we were building SDN networks, so I said, if you want to bring top guys here in Ericsson here, they're really good. They're going to be sucked from, they will be taken back to Junipers or Cisco's and all other startups. But it was not so active in Bangalore. So we put part of the SDN development there. So first controller was developed in India in our team. And then we also started with innovation.
Which
there.
year you did?
That was 2012, 13, 14. So first, actually that was the first of all the controllers that was developed there. And we also engaged, since we wanted to unleash all this creative potential of our employees, we also started with project that was called Ericsson Innova. So which means, we created contents for the people to put new innovative ideas, and then we created a global tool for people doing innovation. And there was a contest and so on and so on.
So that is very similar to the things we talked about around design thinking. But and you are an expert of design thinking.
So this is what we have. When we started with that one, we worked with a company in Silicon Valley called IDEO, which only works with innovation on new product. So we had engaged with them and so on, and we had them at our office, and together with them we developed our design teams. So we had per our site we had 2 masters of design thinking that were actually working with our innovation activities. So we were working on the product innovation, because you can always do better, smarter, and so on, technologies going forward. So it's a must that you have to involve innovation in your existing product. But we also worked in adjacent innovation and further. And what we also believed, it's not in individual mind, but we have put to work hive mind, which means everybody who's wanted to be part of the innovation community will be able to see any idea, comment ideas. So you had idea initiators, ideas developers, you had managers support that, and so on. And then as you go from phase to phase, you could get at the end 2 months, and I don't know how much money we then give to these people. So develop this idea to become some kind of a prototype and so on, according to the design thinking methodology and so on. So we have been very successful in India, and once a year we would bring our best people from Italy and Sweden and and other countries and India to Silicon Valley, and then we will be discussed with them. Wow. So I have been very impressed, and so what I think, when you can engage passion and motivation and ability, which I believe there are so many super smart people in India. Actually, I believe the people are smart all over the world. And if you have a country with population of 1.2 billion, and if you take the top 1% of the people, it's so much more people than in some smaller country, of course.
More than Croatia, for sure.
Definitely, I was born in a country that has only 4 million people, so of course the amount of super smart people...
More than that in New Delhi.
It's much more in India. And I think it's a great thing that many companies have seen that and actually engaged so much. And actually, I work with many Indian people in my in a startup. I work with Rajiv Rani Ranjan, and she is also one of the brilliant people with Indian origin, and I believe that the way forward for India, and what I've seen, it's not only doing maintenance of the products from the past.
Cool. So let's talk about the main topic. So our summit is about the future is now.
Mm-hmm.
The whole idea is we know the global population is increasing and it is expected to be 10 billion by 2050. It may happen sooner or later depending upon how we manage. Our Earth doesn't have resources for 3 billion more people.
Mm-hmm.
We have major challenges when we talk about food and health.
Mm-hmm.
We know, especially pandemic has kind of showed us a glimpse of a future if we don't do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
So you saw the evolution of internet and how internet has changed everything. Change our health, change our infrastructure, change the way we talk, change the way we communicate, including this video we are creating so we can share it with the rest of the world, your message. Everybody is talking about artificial intelligence. What do you think about that? Is it, your definition is similar to Elon Musk's definition where he talks about it's going to just kill the whole humanity, or you believe it is a friend?
Okay, so there are many questions here. So let me go first. What you mentioned, something which is very important when you said the future is here. And I also believe that the future is here. And being around for 30 years in technology and also being a technological geek when I was even, teenager. And I was reading all mistakes that super top stars of the science or whatever said about something. Max Planck, who was well known, Nobel Prize winner, said there is never going to be any rocket that will be able to lift itself and go to the first cosmic speed, which was not true. So there are many things. Or Minister of Information in Sweden, when the internet came in '96, she said, "Oh, this is just a fly that will just go away." Or for example, BlackBerry or Nokia phones that were the top. When iPhone came, they said, "Oh my God, such a bad phone. It's not going to live." So there are so many mistakes of the super smart and famous people and so on. So what I think about that Elon Musk statement, I think whatever. He is entitled to do his things. I want him to continue with his SpaceX or whatever he's doing, because he actually is making mankind a big favor in energy field and breaking the going out of the box of the big industry and so on. So I think this is perfect. But I believe that mankind always find a way. I believe that AI is going to help mankind to simplify our life. It's as any transition is going to be tough. If you look Industrial Revolution, how tough it was for all the people that when you go for the manufacturing to the industry type.
The knowledge economy now.
And everything, what is happening, it is always painful when you go through the transition. This is going to be the same with AI. But the pandemic actually is benefiting AI because now we more and more depend on the tools that are on internet and all the connectivities. So this is a great opportunity for us to still continue working, get our help, teledoctors, whatever, all these devices that can actually be brought by robot home and that will check the temperature and so on. So everything really is happening. But then the question what you place, What about food? We are now 7.5 billion people, or maybe 8, I don't know. After
Depending upon how are we counting.
maybe after pandemic, there will be 8
more.
billion. So there are many questions that have to be resolved with that one. And the speed of change is so big that it has never been so much before. Even if you look the vaccine, when everybody starts working on vaccine and we already have something ready for deployment, and I believe that any other area where the world will focus together, put the efforts and massive focus of the people and AI. You need a lot of AI in in analytics and so on in medical industry that can take the data out. So I strongly believe that AI is going to help humanity, but it's going to be painful.
So my take, Maya, is just like anything in our life, AI is a platform. AI is pretty much like, I'm not a proponent of gun, but it's like a gun. What do you do with that? Maybe gun is not a good example, even a computer. So AI is no different than a computer. What do you do with that? You can do something destructive, you can do something constructive, you can create something, or you can be a hacker or do some crazy things which can kill humanity. So it's always the challenges, where do you draw the line? Right? We need people who are continuously testing our systems. So we really need these hackers who help us build better systems. Tell us what are the vulnerabilities we have. So when we talk about AI, there are a few fundamental challenges I am seeing nowadays. One big challenge I see with AI is there are no standards. What I mean by standards is we have to come up with some standard protocol which we follow globally. That means if our pictures, our images, our videos are recorded at certain places, how those can be used? What will be the outcome of that? How do we handle that information, our information going there? Now, videos are extreme example. How about our Wi-Fi connectivity? We go to the airports, we go to the coffee shop, every single place, we leave the footprint. And I'm not sure whether it is, and you are coming from telecom world, in reality, telecom company and telco always knows, give and take few mile radius, where are you, through the triangulation. So that's not a new thing, but now this is a bigger problem. Now, can this be used for humanity? I think so. For example, especially in pandemic, we can build algorithms, and based on that, contact tracing can be far more efficient. However, how do we handle the permission aspect of it? So that's one key challenge I see, and that's where I believe there should be policymakers who sit across the table, put some systems in place to protect citizens. Second challenge I see, it, in my opinion, is or opportunity. Just imagine a world where our health data is available to anyone who is doing something meaningful, but in a meaningful way. What that means is our private information remain private. Our basic data is made available so people can do research, people can create drugs faster. Now we have so many companies trying to make vaccine. What are their biggest challenges? They're testing on 500 people, 1,000 people. How can you cure 7.5 billion people when your sample size is only 500 or 1,000 and everybody else you are giving placebo? And interesting thing is, people are getting sick with placebo. So that is very, and then you say, my drug is 95% effective. So I don't have a question here, I have a lot of observations. So one question I have is, do you see that there is a need of creating a system which is not biased, do you see a need of creating almost like a protocol when we talk about empathy? It has to be there. What is your take on that?
So what you described, like everything is knife with two sides that can
Double-edged sword.
kill. Yeah, double-edged sword. And when we look about AI, and I don't know how many of you have read Orwell, 1984, and maybe not reading the book because it's really old book, but everybody all probably heard about Big Brother is watching you. So Big Brother is watching us. So one thing what I
Which brother you are talking about?
Big Brother
in the Washington or Big Brother up there?
No, it's whatever. Big Brother in that book is a guy that overlooks everything, and so on. So it's a scary book, and I'm looking. We had a camera at home that I could see what my son is doing, and then I wonder, okay, now when I go to that web address, I look at who else is watching.
Yeah.
And so I disconnected that camera, I disconnected other devices that were all the time listening when I'm going to say, please play me music, or what is the time now? And so I disconnected that one too, because I did start develop a little bit of phobia against that. But this is always multiple standards, and technology is advancing always much faster than everything what can be done around that, what needs to be done around that. Either you talk about airplane traffic or the train traffic or all these machines that were invented hundreds of years ago, or mobile technology. We had different standards. We have AMS, DAMS, NMT, GSM, CDMA, PHS, and so on. So many standards. And now the world has come to one standard, which is GSM. There are different reasons for that one. So I know that so many technologies exist today. At the end,
it's conversion.
Yeah, exactly. And the one that is the best is going to win. What concerns me going forward is that the laws, privacy and security, they are all coming. And every time you have to agree to cookies, and you can read the terms and conditions and so on. But that came after we had Cambridge Analytica issues, after we had Facebook stuff that knows everything about you, even knows what did you do on the 15th of November 2015, and send you the picture. You have been in wherever. I don't want really to know that. Why do you have so much information? Not to talk about mobile networks. Just recently I read, this is a great device I watch, and it measures your blood pressure. So there was a wife that suddenly saw that her husband has a very high heart rate, and she figured out he's not in office, he's doing something that he should not be doing. So this is how divorce comes. So there are so many.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting anecdote.
So, but this is what what we have to deal with. When Sheryl Sandberg mentioned one, I don't know if she really said that or it's one of the. In one of the articles, that there is no privacy anymore. And I definitely can say there is no privacy. You have Google, you have your Gmail account, you have Facebook. So your privacy is now depending on the goodwill of all these companies that have our data. Amazon as well, with all Alexa listening, what is happening in your house, what kind of discussions you have for your dinner. Alexa is there waiting that you say, Alexa, give me this or play me that, or what do you think? So I believe we are living in a world where privacy has been put now, due to everything what's happening, it's on the top agenda. In Europe with this GDPR or whatever, and now all the systems have to be compliant with the European standard, and that's going to spread all over. And so we live in a very complex environment. I believe that Big Brother really is alive somewhere and is watching everything, because we have created that. It's the technology. And so this is the negative side. But we also have to know that positivity how many new type of jobs are going to be created going forward. Extremely important for pushing our kids to get educated, to be computer savvy, programming savvy. I don't think that programming is so important going forward because there are so many smart routines that created today. You can program very easy. You don't have to know. I program in Fortran and assembler and some old languages that you guys haven't even heard about, and it was not easy. I can tell you have to understand how the chipset,
how many to take days.
Yeah, exactly. how the structure of the chipset looks like to be able to utilize all the resources properly. Today we don't have to think about that one because it's on all the levels. We have chipsets that are very smart, and we have number of algorithms and ready routines and so on, and also a number of AI programs that you can all get and buy and put them together and build a very, very advanced systems. So I believe all this for the people that want to be successful and go forward very fast, like these guys that were working on vaccine, they have engaged everything what modern science, technology, programming, AI can offer to bring vaccine so fast to the market.
So, Maya, let's talk a little bit about females in technology. This is a very old conversation. We are talking about having, how do we take out gender bias from AI? We need more females, more women get into artificial intelligence. What can we do to encourage that? What is really missing? Is it the issue of education? Is it the issue of opportunity? Or is it something else?
Thank you very much. I'm very passionate about AI and the women, and not only women, about racial and diversity of any kind, cultural diversity, because you can't have AI program for whatever selling something or for the health in one country and just export it on the opposite side of the world, because people have very different health issues, let's say health issues. If you're doing something, there are social issues, there are moral issues, there are religious issues, there are so many different things that define us, which have to be customized for where it goes. But what you talk about, there is differences between the female perspective and male perspective. None is right and wrong. It's just that there is a difference. So recently I was speaking with one of my friends. She's a human resource manager, and she mentioned a big company that used AI to scan CVs coming from the people that apply for a job. And then they figure out that actually the AI have selected only male, CVs, and they start looking, what is that? And then it came out that women do present themselves in a different way, men present themselves in a different way. So how AI is working? AI, actually, it's not artificial intelligence. It's a very sophisticated program that come out from the head of some super smart programmer that put this together. So if you have male brain working on that one, they will see different things are important for that particular job. So then they figure out that they don't want to use AI now for recruitment process, because they want still people go and scan. But it's very hard if you get like 7,000 CVs for two positions. You really need some help. So there is a number of the organization, Women in AI Women, and so on. And I know that there is organization in India. I heard that in conference last year, and there is also all over. It's not Girls Do Code or Women in Coding and so on. It's actually Women in AI, and they are coming many organizations about that one, which is great, because that actually brings the subject to female programmers and say, oh, look, there is an organization, let's join. I believe that when you go to designing products that are going to be used for women and kids and everybody, you have to have in mind how the mind works. And it has to be more gender equality, and the teams that will create AI programs should be, both different diversity. I'm not talking that we have to have, 2 of that kind, 3 of that kind, and so on. There should be as much diversity in the team as possible to create proper programs.
So my take is slightly different. Not that I'm saying is that there should not be more women in the tech workforce. I definitely would like more women to come and contribute to building the next generation systems. The challenge I see personally is most women don't believe in themselves. They felt that they are not good in engineering. They have this kind of fear, which kind of bothers me, because I met so many phenomenal women in my life, including you, who have changed the world. They have taken things to the next level. And if I look back, most of the men, they have the fear too. So it's not the fear, it's just how you get over that fear. Mm. So one thing we both will agree, that women have 2 things typically more than men. One is empathy, second is creativity. When you look at things, your perspective, the way you observe is very different as compared to men. Men's are very linear. So, question I have for you is, why females don't believe in themselves? Okay. And I'm sorry, it's a heavy question, but I want to ask
I always believed in myself, and I have fought my parents and whoever was on my way, because you kicked many times and so on, but I never allowed that. I had my destination, never allowed that something unpleasant or some really nasty gentleman in my work will take me of my journey to how I see and what I wanted to do. So I definitely know that this is not capability problem.
I completely agree with that.
It's a social problem, and that social problem starts when the girls are very small. So that's why we have today girls that are called STEM education in a elementary school and even earlier. And many countries have that one, and I'm not so concerned about that one, programming and so on, because today the technology, the internet, the programming done many by machines and even more, because all the industry today require that we have a very solid base of understanding what we are doing and why. So let's say you have a fantastic surgeon, a lady, because more women are now in medical school all over the world than in engineering school, and less men there and more men in engineering. But it doesn't matter. At the end, it's very important when systems are done, they're done for people, that you have both men and female on the board, because you have set of requirements that you have to put together. So I am not Elon Musk with his fabulous statements around, but I am not really concerned about that one, because the basic engineering, all this is going to be taken by AI and all existing subroutines and so on. What is needed, that women that have different positions in the company and work with different things, that they understand and they join together with those that are going to do new programs. For example, if you look at the technology today and everything what's happening, it's in doing bread, doing shoes, So IoT is in your shoes, in your bag, in your makeup, in the pills and so on. So all this, what we have now, you can't avoid that. Different parts of society and different industries are coming together like never again. So I'm not concerned if women don't want to, now drill all this mechanical engineering and so on. It doesn't really matter if they are part of the process to define how the products have to be done.
Yeah, and we both know they are the decision maker in the house, so they are buying literally every single thing. If you really talk about an household expense, the major bulk of decisions are made by females.
Yeah.
And who make the decisions of design? Men's.
Yeah, but so, I believe this is my strong belief that going forward, this is going to be changed because you have a lot of analytics, how the products are bought, which are bought. So all those that will appeal to both men and the women of the house are going to be more successful than the products that are done only for women or only for men. So I believe that the world today offers females many, many opportunities. And what I always say, every time when I'm preaching or on any panel where the question comes, perseverance is the most important trait in any girl that wants to be an engineer or wants to have any successful career. It's not easy, perseverance.
No, I can tell you one simple example, and that is where I felt that for some reasons, I find females take setbacks a little too hard. Maybe they're more emotional. So I can give you one good example of my personal life. Long time ago, when I moved to Singapore with a duffel bag, I got interviewed in several companies. And they always used to say that, Mr. Goyal, we can hire a Singaporean at same salary as you. Why should we pay you the same amount? And in my head, of course, I was looking for a job. I couldn't say that in front of them, but I used to think, is he going to do a better job than me? Is he going to do more or less? And they didn't have that answer. In the same country, after 3 years, I designed first vehicle location system of Asia in the same country. So point I'm trying to make it is, when you talk about perseverance, most males, I find, they somehow find ways to navigate. Life is not easy for anyone. I'm not saying it's easier for men or women. What I felt is the challenges, and I personally will take the responsibility being a father of a boy and a girl. We don't teach our kids that they are equal. We don't tell them, we differentiate between them. Oh, you can do this because you're a boy. Oh, you can do this because you are a girl. It's more almost like a genetic makeover we have. Remember the conversation we had when we talked about as we grow old, and it is all encoded in our genes that we change. So our behavior are still driven by our genes. And that is the problem. I think we have to carefully look at that problem and solve it. So we stop telling our daughters that they are less than their brothers.
So that is really the source of unconscious biases are coming first from family home, the way how you are treated at home, like a girl or a boy and so on. You create already basic unconscious biases because these biases that already your parents have are copied into the children. And then kids go to school and these biases continue because everybody brings their biases and so on. And then you start working and then you have all these biases and so on. So I believe that society needs to address so all these what would be unconscious biases that are being created, and they are addressed in some country more, in some less, and there are so many women that become more empowered and speak for themselves. So across the world, even in the countries where women have very very low status in society, but I think that these things are happening. They are not easy to go, but I believe that the fight against unconscious biases in any home and so on. So probably all of you already have your set of unconscious biases inbuilt.
So that's all bullshit.
I have them too. Of course, that's part of the.
So that's for all of our audience to decide what are your biases.
How you are going to raise your children and how you are going to help that the new generation doesn't have so much unconscious biases that, and also, there are traits, what I've seen, you are right. We women want to be perfectionist in things what are doing and so on. And maybe we have too many projects that we do at the same time. At least I have. I start like 17 things. My husband takes one and then he never lets it go until it's. So I was managing men all my life, and at work, of course, not at home. And I have seen.
Well, that's not true, but that's okay.
But I have seen, I really do admire the ability of men that I work with to persevere and execute and be very, very goal focused. There is the end of the projects. If they know what they have to do, they go very, very strongly, sometimes not looking around and so on. So I think this is a perfect combination when you bring diverse teams, gender diverse team, because you will get, oh guys, we don't need to go there anymore, although that is a milestone because something else has happened during that time. So these are that is dynamic which
we have to work on it.
Which is very important to have in building team. And also all the girls, if I could talk to little girls, never allow your parents to tell you that you can't do something because you are a girl and he can because he's a boy, because it should be the choice should come from the girls themselves.
No, I completely echo that, and that's what I tell my daughter. Again, it's not just me. The whole environment around her is not really making her feel, in my opinion, that she is not equal to boys or men.
I can tell you that I have met so many fantastic, successful women from India but all of them had very supportive parents who didn't, introduce these biases to them. And some of them are my great friends, and I just hope there is going to be more and more.
Thank you.
Very, very successful women from India, especially here if you look in US.
It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. I see there is a huge change in last 10 years. And I wish there are more women taking the driving seat, because we really need this gender bias issue to be not only resolved, it should be eliminated from our workforce. But the big thing I truly believe is, and let's change the topic a little bit and go deeper about AI. So when we talk about AI, we both know these are some kind of softwares, very smart software which can learn by itself and create systems and take decisions based on some data or some information available to these software. Mm-hmm. So where do you really see the opportunities for our audience?
You mean opportunities to start working going forward? Well, any field you select, what engineering offers is not going to be untouched from AI. Let's say you want to be a mechanical engineer and you will create new fabulous mechanical platform and so on, but mechanics will have so much, all these machines will have so much software in order to produce that software or create the chip or do design for the chip. You will use more and more AI programming that is going to come there, who will make fast decision in time based on the material they're using or the products that you want to create or what's happening in the market and so on. So I would say anywhere where you go, and I would suggest that everything that has to do with IoT, which means that internet is spreading to the last tree in the forest of, and Amazon, Antarctica, any sheep, anything, the shoes, they're putting chipset in the shoes because they want to see how many steps you do in Nike or whatever. So it's up to every of the engineer who want to be successful to engage as much as AI in doing their products. And I believe that combination. I think medical field is very important, but what I look at the medical field, how many big pharma medical companies that need a lot of AI to be able to analyze data? There are not that many. So we're talking here about hundreds and hundreds of people that are listening there. So the safe things is now addressing smaller industries because they have many, like food industries, IoT stuff, they all get merged at the end. Also, everything that has something to do with the consumer analytics, marketing of the products and so on. I work with a company, we have used AI programs in reading what has been tweeted from our congressmen and senators and the president, and our AI were looking how people responded on those tweets. And in 2016, when the whole world believed that Hillary is going to win, we said, well, but our AI analytics is saying that Trump is going to win. So what we have done, algorithms were looking which words are people putting together when they are commenting on the tweets coming from Trump or for Hillary and so on. And our AI showed that the words that people are using, because they can come on a different scale of in positive or negative engagement and so on, it came out that people, that Trump is going to win, and he won. And then I was thinking so much, why we were right? What is that? And then I figure out why the polling, when they call you and say, and then I figure out, people are prim and proper and they don't want to say that they like what Trump is saying. But when they go and vote, they are going to vote for him because they are too embarrassed to admit that they actually agree with the things. But when you are putting your words and you have a smart AI that combine these words in a different fields, that actually is what really your inner person is saying, and that was actually the result.
So if I may summarize it, or for our audience understanding, is what I felt or what I understood so far is AI provide us those patterns or help us understand those patterns which our human mind cannot process. And a lot of time these patterns may discover or uncover something very unique. Now, should we use it for IoT, or we use it for the going from point A to point B, or even doing simplest thing in our life, including booking a hairdresser. Mm-hmm. So many of these problems can be solved with AI. Mm-hmm. However, I truly believe the way the world is looking at AI is not really the AI. We are trying and we are saying AI is a magic pill. I don't believe AI is a magic.
Mhm.
We are talking about artificial intelligence for last 50, 60 years. We have these algorithms for longest time.
Mhm.
What we got now is we have better processing power,
Mhm.
cheaper processing power. We are able to process these algorithms and able to come to some conclusions and assuming that these conclusions are going to give us better insights.
Yes.
Technically, that's what it is. And based on these insights, we start taking decisions. So, I personally think, Maya, AI has tremendous opportunities, especially in healthcare. However, I don't believe America or rest of the world, excluding China, is spending enough solving these healthcare issues. We don't have enough doctors. COVID has shown us we don't have enough doctors. We don't even have a proper healthcare system, even in United States. We don't even know what is happening in your neighborhood. Okay, we don't want to tag a person or we don't want to tag our patients, but I would like to understand what should be my behavior when I'm in this surrounding, then this surrounding. We are applying these logics in our ad server. Based on your behavior and location, you receive different ad. We are doing it for the last 20 years. Why can't we do that today in the healthcare?
We should. So I totally agree with you. I was asked where I believe that is easier and faster to get a job for everybody. Mm-hmm. And I talk about consumer and everything that's linked to IoT and so on, because then you have to engage so many, like telecommunication is very important, internet is very important. There are so many technology that come between us as a consumer sitting on some edge device towards the cloud applications that we are doing and so on. So this is very important. In regards to AI for health, absolutely important. And I also believe it's too little happening today.
Yeah.
So in the coming years, there are so many, because if you want to have a very good solution for robotic doctors, they will still go to some cloud that will analyze and so on, and then download what that robot somewhere have to do. For that, you have to have a bandwidth of communication to come to that cloud and so on. So, one thing is driving another to go forward. But one thing in regards to AI, and I believe all of us should know, there is no AI. There were some attempts to AI, and they created some AI programs, and please look for it, and then they killed themselves. They killed among themselves, and then at the end they killed each other, and then the last one made suicide and so on. So I read
You're talking about Life 3.0.
Oh my God! So what is that?
That's a great theory.
But we should never outsource our thinking to AI, because then we go. I don't believe that Isaac Asimov world of me robot or I robot is going to happen. I think that if we let it go unattended, or too much of our thinking outsourced to AI, the result might be very, very complicated for future generations.
So, I believe personally, any tool we develop as a human, there has to be some controls and some warning systems placed, whether it's an aeroplane, it's a car, or AI. The challenge we have is we don't have the guide rails defined. And I don't believe our governments has the intellectual muscle power needed to make it happen. So question is, and that's a question for our audience too, how do we build the blueprint and these controls so we can have better world for each human? We all know the value of data sharing. We know the value is tremendous. Together, we can win. If we act alone, it's not going to happen. Whether it's solving the problem of new drugs, or solving or making our life easier, so we have better self-driven car, or we have self-driven car, all require tremendous amount of data. We all talk about data is new oil. Where I'm having challenges is, so far none of the organization, and I know they have hidden agendas, they have interests, they want to monetize the data and all, sit down and created these policies. GDPR is great, but is it enough? I don't believe so. Is GDPR solving real problem? Kind of. But to me, it still feels like I'm not criticizing any standards. Standards are great because it evolves. It at least you have to start somewhere. The problem I see it is there are 4 major companies have invested billions and billions of dollars in AI. Of course, they want to monetize all the investments they have made. We need people of those companies, their C-level executives, sit down, work with our policy makers, and create a blueprint which is going to protect us, at the same time give us the desired results we need. What do you think about that?
I think you are totally right, and we all cross fingers that this really happens and that we have conscious politicians, those that are running our countries,
Or the world.
Or countries of the world, and we as the humans should stop being so small-minded and just looking in our garden. We live in one world, and I can imagine several things that might happen that needs to bring us all together. One of them is pandemic. No one believed. Can you imagine what if some aliens come and start bombing? Are we going to be united Earth for trying to defend our planet? Yes. The climate, the climate is starting doing a lot of bad things, and let's hope that all the countries in the world will do the right steps in order to protect the planet in the climate way and so on. So we just have to be very, very smart wherever we vote, that we vote right, and we have to put that our voters, wherever they are around the world, are educated. Because if you don't educate people and the children, and you don't have a proper school system, people will not have a critical thinking in order to make right choices going forward.
Completely agree. Maya, I can't thank you enough for your time today. I hope our audience have learned some interesting things. I personally have learned a lot of things.
I have learned from you too. It was so fun. And by the way, we haven't prepared any of this. I haven't even seen the questions, but it was so spontaneous.
Thank you.
I hope there are some smarts that we did share, or we think they are smarts.
Yeah, no, I'm very confident our audience will love it. However, I would like to correct you on one thing.
Please go ahead.
I come from the institute called Indian Institute of Technology.
Mm-hmm.
We don't take no for an answer.
Okay.
Maya has challenged us, and we are going to accept her challenge. We are going to work and continue to work to build a better world for ourselves, better world for our next generation.
I think
we will not quit until we find ways to solve these problems. We all know by isolating ourselves, we cannot solve the world problem. We all have to work together at every single level to solve these problems. We are so connected. In fact, pandemic has shown us that we are more connected than we think we are.
Yes.
And that is one big lesson for me personally, and all the people I have and all my volunteers team for the IIT2020 conference. We all know, and that is the reason that first time in the history of PenID USA, our conference is global conference.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I really congratulate all of you and so on. And this is one of the positive effect of having conferences move to internet, so you don't need to travel, book hotel, and all this. You can, and then many things you can look and listen when you have time. So this is actually fabulous way of spreading the information, educating and engaging people. So good luck with that, and then congratulations.
Thank you, Maya. Hi, I'm Sanjiv Goyal, conference chair of IIT 2020. We had an amazing conversation with Maya.
Strelar-Migotti.
And please join us on December 4th and 5th. Register at IIT2020.org. Our event is open to all. We are looking to collaborate with every single engineer of the future. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you really had a wonderful time, and I hope you are staying safe.